Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mike's Bar and Grill in Berea. It's the Yellow Jacket Athletics Roadshow here on BWYellowJackets.com. We are looking forward to talking about all that was here in this past week in Yellow Jacket Athletics, and also looking forward to seeing what we've got in store tonight. I'm Brendan Gulick. Thanks for joining us tonight. Head coach Jim Hilbert of our Yellow Jacket football team. Grateful to join us here this evening. We'll also hear from our new track coach, Dan Simpson, who's looking forward to building a really, really cool program here at BW. And we'll hear from Olivia Zawadzki of our women's volleyball team in just a little bit as well. Coach, thanks for jumping on. Appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's good to see you again. It's good to see you. Do you mind if we run through what happened this past week before we get into some football talk?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, let's do it. So we'll get everybody caught up back on Tuesday this past week. A couple of teams that were in action. The men's soccer team had a really nice showing against Teal College, the Tomcats, and they beat Teal 3-1 on the road. The women's tennis team competed on the road as well. They were at Westminster and unfortunately fell in 8 of the 9 matches on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the volleyball team went across town and played a Case Western Reserve team that is very good. They're considered one of the best in the country this year, and all 3 sets were competitive, but the Jackets did lose in straight sets in that game. But there was some good news on Wednesday night. The BW women's soccer team played great at home. They smoked Geneva 4-0 in a really impressive performance for BW women's soccer. We had one match on Thursday, and that was the men's soccer game against Defiance, where the Yellow Jackets pulled off a 3-1 victory Thursday night. They are playing quite well. The men's soccer team is here at the beginning of the season. The men's and women's cross-country teams competed on Friday. They were down in Cedarville, Ohio, at the All-Ohio Championships. Congratulations to the men. They took 4th out of 14 teams. The women also competed really well. Well done to them. 4th out of 15 different schools. And the women's volleyball team had a big match on Friday night, and they knocked off Olivet up in Michigan in 4 sets, 3-1. Saturday, as they usually are in the fall, pretty busy. The women's golf team played, they played Mohawk Golf and Country Club out in Tiffin, hosted by Heidelberg, and they knocked off a couple of teams there, finished 6th out of 8. Men's tennis team with a great showing against W&J, winning all 9 of their matches, 3 in the doubles courts and 6 on singles courts, so they beat up on the Presidents. The women's tennis team, unfortunately, didn't have quite the same luck. They lost all 9 of their matches to Worcester on Saturday. Men's tennis then followed that up with an 8-1 win over Franciscan, also played at W&J. And they also beat Penn State Barron in 8 of the 9 matches that day. Well done to them. BW on the volleyball side. The volleyball team took a 4-set victory from Kalamazoo, 25-22, 25-19, 25-16, 25-12, the scores in that game. The men's soccer team with another win on Saturday. They beat Waynesburg 4-2 on the road, while the women's soccer team knocked off Waynesburg at home 3-1. And I want to make sure I don't miss one here. I think we had I went through men's tennis. Yep, okay. So the only other one then was our football game, which was played across town, and the Yellow Jackets fell short of John Carroll 21-7 on Saturday afternoon. And then the men's golf team played down in West Lafayette in basically a preview of the OAC Championship at River Greens Golf Course. Only 3 teams went down there, and the Jackets played well, but they ended up taking 3rd in the team tally. So that catches you up on all that was in the past week of Yellow Jacket Athletics. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.
A little housekeeping at the beginning of the show. Sometimes you got to go through that. It's good to see you, and I know this is probably a challenging week because you play an emotional game against your rival, and it sounds like the Jackets played pretty well and ultimately just came up a little bit short. Give us an idea kind of how things are right now as the team gets ready for the next opportunity here.
Yeah, like we were talking about before off the air, I think for us, if you look at our 2 losses, probably sum it up in about 7 to 10 plays in either game, in both games, where could have went either way if we make some plays here and there. We're not that far away as a team to have that success, but we have to really. We've been on the road the last 3 weeks. And I know it's nice to be able to come home and play, obviously, at our home field finally for the first time in 2022, which I can't believe it's been about a month. So I know our guys are excited about that. I know I'm excited about being able to play at home, our fans. And I want to also mention this, obviously, our game this past week playing across town, our support was unbelievable. The alums, obviously, our students, our jacket backers, the parents, everybody, the backing we had in that game was unbelievable. I know our team, I know our coaching staff really appreciates the support we had this past weekend. It was a great atmosphere for game day. I'm really was appreciative of the showing that we had. I really appreciate the people coming out and watching us play. And we just got to fix some things this week. It's a big day for this big week for preparation, and obviously we got to move on to Ohio Northern.
As we try to kind of put a bow, just a couple questions about last week. In your mind, where did the game turn?
For us, I think there were some opportunities, I believe, in this. Matter of fact, there's probably opportunities in both halves, first and second half, where we didn't capitalize on them. And when you do that against a good football team away at their home place, it's going to put you behind the eight ball. And I think it did it to us in the first and second half. I was happy the way our guys battled, kept fighting, till the very end. But there's those plays that mean a lot in a game. Obviously, there's probably 5 plays in that game where if we make a play or do something different in that game, it could be different. And we need to learn from obviously that, and we got to learn from our first game too, where there's the same type of thing. We got to be able to make plays when it's time to be able to do that. Now, see, the thing we harped on today was about doing our job. You got to do your job. Whatever your job is, do your job. Play hard, do your job. I think good things will happen.
You've played in 3 tight games, regardless of the outcome, right? I mean, they've been really competitive, nip and tuck kinds of games where hey, one play can really decide whether or not we win or lose. What have the conversations been like in the locker room at halftime, where you feel like, hey, maybe we've done some things well in the first half, or, hey, throw that out the window, we needed the reset button? What's the mentality for the team when they're starting to face a little bit of adversity and how they've responded in the second half?
I would say, for us, the second half, halftime, I think our guys have handled it well, being able to make adjustments and move on to the second half. I think there's sometimes during the game, sometimes we get too emotional where we need to be just even keel. Can't be too high, can't be too low, and just keep playing. And I think if we can do that during games, I think that'll help us. But I think halftime, coaches have been, calm and been making adjustments. The players have been receptive, doing those things. Is just, I think, during the game for us to be an even keel team.
I know we had a conversation before the season started about, frankly, how happy you were with the way that both Joey and Reese came into the quarterback battle. I know ultimately Joey won that out, but the idea that you had 2 guys who really competed hard for it, and both have seen a good bit of playing time so far. What do you think about your quarterback?
Yeah, no doubt. I think both of them have done some good things. Obviously, Reese was really a spark plug for us against Wilmington coming in that fourth quarter. I believe he ran for 83 yards to give us that spark we needed to win that game. And obviously the same thing this past game. Both him and Joey did some good things, and we need to keep capitalizing on stuff. And for us, it's just putting 4 quarters of football together. Offense, defense, and special teams. If we can do that, get some confidence these next 2 weeks before we go into the bye week.
Has there been any challenging of your leadership on the team, the upperclassmen, to say, hey, look, guys, we still got enough of the season in front of us that you can write a narrative that you'd be really proud of in the way this thing can go? How have the conversations maybe gone between the coaching staff and the upperclassmen?
I think that was today. I think, there's no doubt we have the ability to, obviously, like you said, write your own book. There is no doubt about it. And if we take one game at a time, one day at a time, going 1-0 every single day, and just play hard, be coachable, play with that relentless effort and that juice you need to bring every single day about the great game of football. And we're playing for each other, playing for your brother. Trust the guy next to you. I really believe we can do some good things these next 7 weeks.
I feel like you've got some guys on the team that are all ball, guys that really just want to focus on and play high-level football.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. And I think guys care dearly about, obviously, the program, their teammates, what we need to do to change things. And I think hopefully we'll see that this week.
Good. Got a chance to play Ohio Northern. You mentioned finally at home, which is great. Ohio Northern is not exactly coming in with a ton of confidence either. They had a pretty tough showing last week. The Polar Bears dropped 37-3 to Heidelberg, and they had a really tough day stopping the run. I would imagine that as you guys consider what that could look like here this coming week, that should be exciting because you've got a heck of a running back in John Murray, and you've shown some depth at that position. When you've scouted Ohio Northern and tried to get a feel for what they are, what are your impressions?
Yeah, I think for us, first of all, Coach Dean Paul does a great job. They're well coached. Jim Cordell, their new offense coordinator, does a great job. Coach Krebs, those guys, they're well coached. their kids play hard for 60 minutes. We have to be ready emotionally from start to finish. And I think us offensively being able to make some game-altering plays in the run game, in the pass game, be able to distribute the ball throughout our football team, obviously, with, like you said, John Murray, Victor Ford, Darius Stokes. Elijah Arnett had a really good game for us this past game. To be able to distribute the ball throughout our team and force them to guard everybody. And then defensively, being sound, owning our gap, be able to stop the run, Brock Martin and them, force them to throw the ball, and get after it. We got to fly around and get after it for the next 60 minutes, play physical football, be able to smack people in the mouth and get after it this Saturday.
I think we've talked a lot about some of the skill position guys in a couple of our conversations in prior weeks, and we've certainly hit on a few of them here. Let's get in the trenches for a minute. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. What are you happy about with your offensive line play, and where do you want to see them get better?
Yeah, I think for us, two guys that stuck out that played pretty well this past week was George Newcomb and Cole Bryan. Cole Bryan's only a sophomore, first year starting for us. Both played tackles. Did a really good job protecting this past week. Did a good job. For us, obviously, I think inside we need to obviously guards and center. We need to keep getting better with experience. All three of those guys are new guys. I think obviously the more experience they get, the better they'll be for us up front. And I see all of us. I think it's just once we get that confidence and once good things happen, winning solves everything.
Sure.
And once you start playing well, I think that can compound in some great things offensively and defensively. Same thing up front. Frank Sukup, Jordan Smith, Ryan Pegues, Caden Van Court, all those guys, Devon Slocum, stepping up, Mason and Dylan O'Donohue and Devontae Jackson stepping up and being able to stop the run. And then on the back end, be able to stop the pass with Anthony Kendall and Robbie Williamson and Jacob Hill, guys like that, Brandon Seawright, and being able to fly around and get after it and make game-altering plays. Got great turnovers. We didn't do this that past week. We did it the week before. We got to make sure we do that this week.
I know you guys as a staff, you guys as a team are focused on, hey, all we can do is control the preparation for Ohio Northern this week because that's your next opponent. But now that you are two games into conference play, is this a time of year where maybe guys are starting to look around and say, okay, how'd Marietta play this week? How'd Heidelberg play this week? And try to get a feel for who's playing well, who's playing poorly. Does that help in your
No, I don't. I think for us, because where we're at now, it's more about us. And I always say that to our team. It's about us. It's not about anybody else. It's about us. We can, like I said, control what we can control. And that's attitude and effort every single day. And I think the more we do that, the better off we'll be.
How about looking forward to, the crowd and the idea of playing in front of
thank God.
a brown and gold heavy group this weekend?
Can't wait. And I know our guys are excited too. We're breaking out the new uniforms this weekend, and I know they're fired up about that. But to be able to play in front of our home crowd, which we feel like we have home field advantage every time we step on the field, with the support we had last year from our students and parents and alums, the people in the community, that's a huge deal, and it's a huge advantage for when people have to play us.
Parents and Family Day this weekend in Berea. The Yellow Jackets will go back on the road next week. They'll be at Marietta before finally a chance to hit the reset button, take a Saturday off, and reevaluate some things middle of the year. And then 3 home games out of the last 5, including Muskingum, Otterbein, and Mount Union. The Hall of Fame game will be the first week out of the bye, and then it's homecoming on Saturday, October 22nd. Senior Day is set for Saturday, November 12th. Any fun memories you have now that you've been around, kind of going through the schedule a few times? Any fun memories that you have specifically from Parents and Family Day?
I know we play well. I know that's always a plus. That's one thing that really, to be honest with you, that's what sticks out for me, obviously, the Family Day, and just being at home, that we play well at home. And I think that we get the energy from our crowd, being at home. I think that's a huge help.
How about the fact that, you guys have recruited pretty darn well in Northeast Ohio, and you have a chance to have a lot of the families, a meaningful part of your program. It's not just, hey, I'm coaching your kid, but you get a chance to bring these families out together specifically on this day and sort of celebrate the Yellow Jacket family.
No doubt about it. Obviously, I know tailgating would be big Saturday, which obviously is great. Be able to bring recruits on campus too to show them obviously our facilities, our program, and the people that are excited about what's going on that day. I know Steve Thompson's done a great job of making an event on Saturdays. And I think that's to be able to show it off to other people. And I know we're all excited about that.
Give us an idea about the recruiting component of a game day, what it takes to pull off, hey, I'm prepping for a game. My job is to coach this team and try to win this game. But, by the way, I got a whole bunch of guys that are coming in here that we're hoping are going to be a part of this thing moving forward.
Sometimes I got to remember because on game day, I'm a hard guy to be messed with. So I'm very laser focused on what's going on. So, I think we do a good job of being able to obviously show the parents and the recruits on campus what we have to offer, and being able to obviously talk to them in person and show them how excited we are about them being here and what we have to offer on game day. Game day atmosphere. I think we have, pardon us, I think some of the best game day atmosphere in small college football.
It has proven that time and time again. Great crowds, frankly, really high-quality play year after year. It's fun to watch and fun to be a part of. I know this was a tough recent weekend, but certainly appreciate you spending some time with us and sharing some perspective. And I hope Saturday's a great day for the Jackets.
Appreciate it, Dice. I appreciate having me on. It's great seeing you again.
Good to see you too, Coach
Thank you
Hilbert.
so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Jim Hilbert, the head coach of our football team here at BW. All right, we are going to turn things over to Coach Simpson. A rousing ovation. Let's get this one flipped around here on this side.
Okay. Oh, I see.
There we go.
Yikes.
That's okay. Dan Simpson, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
And thanks for spending some time with us.
Thanks.
The new head coach for our men's and women's track and field team. Boy, you want to talk about a sport that doesn't have an off season. You are the definition of it.
Right.
Give us an idea how challenging it is to step into a role coaching a team that it feels like you're constantly training and trying to figure out how to peak at certain times of the year.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, luckily, Coach Eby, our director, my friend, has been here for, I think he's going on year number 8. So we have that stability. And Coach Hill, who is my position before for me, has us set up really well. We've got some talent and some leadership, and so that always helps. But yeah, you come in and it's right when I started, it's time for camp week for cross country, and soon it'll be indoor and outdoor, and the year flies by when you do what we do.
You're an OAC guy. You went to Heidelberg. You've spent some time coaching in the conference. Before we talk about just Division III in general, how about the OAC? What is special about this conference and the fact that you've decided to make a couple of stops in the OAC professionally?
Yeah, the OAC is always so competitive, and I think there's only one OAC head coach that I don't know pretty personally right now. 9 out of 10, I'm trying to think of. It's just a really close-knit group, and we all want to beat each other, I think. And so we've known each other for a long time. And I left Ohio for 10 years, just came back, and the OAC's never been better. Truly. People say that, but it's never been better. It's so deep, and I'm excited to help BW compete against some of these schools that have really taken off in the last 10 years.
You come to BW directly here from the West Coast. What did your time in California teach you?
Yeah, it just taught me how to be resourceful, and for the last couple gigs I've had, it's been me as a full-time coach and a couple part-time assistants. So here, I feel like it's such a luxury to have, to be one of 3 full-time, and then we have so many others on board. Todd Swisher, who's been here for decades and is just a mastermind with the jumps, and Aaron Casper, and the list goes on and on. We have such a great staff, and I think that is it's been huge. But I think out in California and even in previous stops before that, it's just being resourceful and learning how to be the recruiting coordinator and be the coach and to kind of balance it all, and I think that bodes well for coming here and maybe having more support. I think it'll translate. So
you come from most recently, you come from the NAIA ranks. I almost said that backwards. And I guess I'm just curious about the distinction between whether it's the organization of meets, the quality of athlete. How would you differentiate, the NAIA caliber competitor with where we are at Division III?
Yeah, so I've been coaching over 15 years. I was in the NAIA for 1 year, so it was a very, very abnormal stop for me, I guess. There's no debate. I mean, no disrespect to the NAIA, because I have a lot of friends who coach there, and I love my time there. NCAA Division III is just a whole different ball game in terms of just the final time to get to nationals in every single event, basically across the board. So there's just a lot more schools in Division III as well. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's well over double the amount of schools. So just that by itself lends itself to, there's going to be a lot more competition for getting to a national meet, right? There's just more talent out there, more numbers. So. But yeah, and obviously recruiting's way different, and no athletic scholarships in Division III. So it's, but that's what I'm used to. I'm a product of that, and most of my coaching stops have been at NCAA Division III schools. So.
From your perspective, you chose to come to BW. This was obviously an appealing place. What is the biggest draw as you go into the homes for recruits here?
Yeah, there's so many to name. I think the first thing is the people. Coach Eby is so great. It's great to collaborate with him, and that was number one for me. But the facilities, to have the beautiful indoor track and maybe the fastest outdoor track in Ohio at least, with Armando X surface, and just the campus is beautiful. You're close to culture. There's a lot of schools that have an indoor and outdoor track as beautiful as ours in the conference and around the nation, but they might be 3 hours away from a major city. So you combine all of that stuff with the fact that we have those internships and that culture for, I enjoy in my personal life to go enjoy a show or whatever. It's just such a great, well-rounded college town, Ball Walls.
I certainly don't personally need any convincing. I agree.
Yeah.
I love it. But no, it's a great note. As you look at what your goals are here, what you're trying to accomplish, you've obviously got two different sides you're helping oversee here on the men's and women's side. What are your goals as you take this opportunity on?
Again, so they've built such a great program here over the years. Dr. Taraski is someone that I knew pretty personally, and I spoke to him. He's obviously a legend that has passed recently here. But Coach Hill really built something great here as well, and so I just want to keep that momentum going. At the same time, we always want to get better. Mount Union, their head coach is a guy that I work for, and he coached me at Heidelberg, so I'd like to beat him. So you just go down the list. There's always people that you want to work hard, and you know that if you leave the office early and don't make those 5 more calls, then maybe they'll get picked up by somebody you want to beat. So it's one of those things.
How have you been able to assess the competitive mindset of the kids that you're overseeing in the same way you just spoke, where it's like, no, hey, I've got to do 5 extra reps of whatever it is because the margins in winning in the OAC in particular are razor thin?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, to this point, the crew I'm going to oversee, sprints, hurdles, jumps, relays, we won't work with them until Halloween. Halloween day is the first time I'll actually work with them. I've spoken with them, and I've witnessed them play sand volleyball on campus, so I've seen competitiveness that way. But I know in my individual meetings with them how much they want to succeed and how talented the group is. And yeah, I think it's just about, in our sport, first and foremost, making yourself better, making sure that you're setting personal best, and then you're going to worry about scoring at an elite level. But we have a couple student athletes, more than a couple. Obviously, Hope Murphy's goal is to win every time she steps on the track, and she basically does. Shadero Clark, who will be in my event group, is a former OAC champion, and he's a guy that's his goal every time he steps on the track. And Christian Pfeiffer was top 5 in the high jump last year, and he keeps saying that he's going to win the OAC high jump, and he wants that target on his back. So I don't think they need motivated. I love that. You want, as a coach, especially in our sport, to have a group that you have to hold back, not motivate to get out the door or put in the work when nobody's looking. And so feel pretty lucky.
I'm curious about Christian and the idea of being a dual sport guy, playing basketball for a guy in Tom Heil, frankly, and his assistant coach, Brian Schmidt, guys that are ultra competitive and love athletes, not just basketball players. How do you work together with other coaches and saying, hey, this is what we need from this guy certain time of the year, and this is what we can sacrifice another time of year?
Yeah, so now Christian is full-time track and field, but,
Okay.
That kind of happened before I even got here. But when that collaboration does happen, and it will, if I'm here for 10 years, and I hope I am, then that's certainly something that's going to come up. It's just about being, making sure that when the other sport is happening, that you're stepping aside and communicating with that coach respectfully, and just a collaboration happens, and not stepping on people's toes, and making sure that hey, asking that coach, what do you think? How's this look? Is that too much for what you guys are doing to coincide with what you guys are doing and whatnot? And I think it typically works out as long as you have the athlete's best interest.
But from an alumni perspective, there's a lot of BW track alums that still live in Northeast Ohio. How have they embraced you, and how do you plan to use that alumni base?
They're everywhere. So I've been to a lot of meets already. 2 weekends ago, I went to 3 meets in a day on a Saturday all across the state. It was a really intense day, but I think I ran into 9 Baldwin Wallace alums. I think I only knew 2 of them going into the day. So it's been I can't believe how many there are and how prideful of the program they are, and how they want to throw talented student athletes our way. So we're definitely not going to say no to that, and going to embrace them. I think we have big plans in terms of we have an alumni meet in the indoor season that we're going to host, and I think that's things like that. We want to bring them back on campus, treat them like celebrities because they are to our program, and I'm excited to get to know more and more of these people that are, you're right, they're all around.
I think one of the critical components when you're trying to make decisions and where you want to spend time professionally, you're looking at your leadership, and so you're looking at Steve Thompson and the BW University administration. How are they going to support your program? How is your athletic director going to fight for you? What's your budget look like? Things like that. You obviously chose to come here, so you must have liked what you saw. Give us an idea of how you feel like this program is in a good place because the university supports it.
Yeah, the university does support Baldwin Wallace. Again, I say arguably we probably do have the fastest surface in the state of Ohio with Armando X. That's one example of we will go above and beyond. That costs money to have a facility like that, and we just have it. In terms of like sending out mailers for envelopes for recruiting and all that, basically there is no tipping point. No, hey, when are we sending out too much kind of a thing. It's basically like, cast as big of a net as you need to cast, and just make sure you bring in a class with it. So the support's been unbelievable. There's no excuses on our end. This is by far, and again, I've been coaching about a decade and a half at the college level, and I don't know that I've ever had resources like this to go recruit. Our apparel that we have, we do fundraise. That's pretty normal though, but I mean, we just have the resources are abundant here, and the facilities are well taken care of. One note that I've told people over and over is when I got here, the day I arrived at BW, my name was already like on the office door. That sounds like a really small thing, but that's never happened to me that quickly. It's always like the 3rd month you're there, they're like, oh, don't worry, we're going to put that up there and everything. And little things like that continue to happen here where I'm like, wow, this place is truly different.
Attention to detail matters, doesn't it?
For sure.
This is a random question, but what's your favorite time of year?
I would say fall. I'm a cross country guy, okay. And I'd say the fall, like sloshing through the leaves and everything. And I'll say I've missed it. Being in California, I can't wait to see what the Metro Parks look like here soon. I'm excited.
The fact that we are literally on the edge of the Metro Parks, and a lot of guys and women are training on Metro Parks runs all the time. I have to think that's part of the draw of wanting to come here. Is like, hey, it's not just training, running through a tough spot. You get beautiful scenery you're going to run through.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And even for our, throwers and jumpers who aren't probably going to go run a 5 kilometers out there in the Metro Parks, they can still walk it. They can still enjoy it. It's still a good way to decompress after 18 billion exams, in a week or whatever you have. So it's beautiful. It really is. And it's just one more note. And we'd be stupid not to show, student athletes that come by on recruit visits and stuff. And so we do. We make a point to go out there and show them Wallace Lake and, all the beauty that is right around us here.
Give us an idea what the schedule looks like right now in the cross-country season, and what you've accomplished through the first couple meets and what you're working toward.
Yeah, so I'm a little detached. The team would tell you this. I'm a little detached from cross-country. I will speak on it. They're a great team. My role kind of this fall is to hit the road while they're at meets. I'm not going. I'm recruiting aggressively for the sprint side, the hurdle side, the throw side, and for the distance side, to be honest with you. But so far, I mean, Hope Murphy, business as usual. Sure. It makes it sound easy, but I see what she does. It's not. She works her tail off. And then you've got a young team for the most part. And I made a note here just to make sure I didn't butcher this. So David Russo on the men's side is a grad student senior. And outside of he and Nick Descani on the men's team, there's only through 3 meets the only 2 seniors who have scored for our men's team, and we have great leadership there. That just points to how the future set up here for this program. And on the women's side, Maddie Miller's the lone senior who has scored for the first 3 meets. So you've got young talent here, and a lot of people to build around, and it's exciting time.
When you're running in a meet like the Division III National Preview, which is coming up here in, I guess it'd be roughly a week and a half, what are the kinds of goals as a program that you guys are setting? Are they team-related? Are they all individual things? How do you go about that?
Definitely team-related, and I think Coach Eby, if he were here beside me, or he would say this is the time where it gets real, because it really does. So in our sport, nothing goes against the resume until this pre-national weekend. This is the first meet of the year that kind of counts on your resume. So when the committee, if you're trying to get an at-large bid to nationals, they will talk on your resume beginning with this meet coming up. So it matters. You're trying to hope, obviously, as a low point total. Hopefully going out there on the women's side and doing that helps. So obviously to help our team, she has to run individually very well, but everybody has a role. And I think just, they have a really hard week of training this week, some key workouts. Then they're going to rest up and go attack next week and hopefully set a tone for the second half of the year. I think they consider the second half is about to begin.
Perhaps it's post-COVID and everybody wanting to be a little bit more involved. Perhaps it's just a rejuvenated sense of pride and purpose within the department and its student athletes, but it's pretty obvious over the last 15 to 18 months that there's a different feel, a different vibe right now around Yellow Jacket athletics as a whole. How have you felt that, and how have you been able to reciprocate that or seen your kids reciprocate that to the other teams?
Yeah, no, I love to hear that. Well, so obviously I'm new, so I wouldn't know how it's changed in the last 15 months, but I have been hit over the head with how just there is some kind of Yellow Jacket fever out there. People are very excited to be here and to support their other sports and everything. And I think you're probably right. I hadn't even thought about it. Coming out of COVID, it's probably one of the big reasons that's the case. People being robbed of seasons and everything. And I think maybe that's the reason, too, that the OAC in our sport has become, and the nation has become has had this spike in talent, is because I think there's been extra eligibility saved up, and then you have talent coming in, so it just stockpiles the talent and ability. And I'm sure people during those times, what's a good way to socially distance? In our sport, you can get really fit. You can get really fit if you want to during that period of time. So, but no, I think you look around at the coaching staffs here and the goals for all teams here, and it's to win and to compete for OAC titles, and it's hard not to get excited and feel motivated by that.
Since we're still getting to know you, this is maybe a more broad question, but the idea of being a coach through COVID, gosh, that's a challenging ask. You got a lot of things that you've got to figure out how to adjust. When you reflect on what you went through as a coach, going through an incredibly challenging time for student athletes' lives, how did it make you a better coach?
It made me a better coach. I'll say this. I think the older I get, the mental health side, and you've seen it in stories across the board, in other sports as well. When I was out near Stanford at Menlo, there was a Stanford softball player. I think there's some young lady that had a struggle. I think it's increased that side of things. Like when you're in a period where you can't do what gives you joy, you have to really focus on. You do have student athletes who are a little maybe upset with that fact and everything. I think those skills were really honed during the pandemic, was dealing with more anxiety and grief than usual because of the fact that you couldn't go do what you love to do. So I think those things, are going to carry with me from the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic wasn't all bad, but I think we all, we got a little stir crazy after a while. And doing those, where I was, we did, COVID antigen testing every single Wednesday at 6 a.m. And I know some people did it even more than that. And it's just one of those things that it becomes a grind. So I think there's a whole lot of joy coming out of that, and just being able to you appreciate what you have more. So I think that's kind of the takeaway for me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Since this is the first time we've had a chance to have you publicly, is there anything else that you'd like people to know about you or what you're trying to keep building on?
Yeah, no, I want to make sure that I'm when I come in here, I'm very clear that like I'm so proud of what's already been built.
Sure.
And I definitely want to progress that. And I think for me right now, because our team does not connect with me, my event group doesn't connect with me until Halloween. It's my job to hit the pavement, hit the phones, and to make sure that this team gets bigger and more talented. And you can't go wrong with that as a goal. We did, I think, on my interview even I talked to the panel about it in the OAC. I called it an arms and legs race because it really is. And in the OAC and track and field, the teams with the biggest rosters almost across the board, the roster numbers meant that's where you were. That's where you finished in the OAC, except for I think Wilmington punched above their weight on the men's side or something like that. So knowing that, if you have that research in front of you, it's like, okay, how can I right now? I can't train my team. How can I make this program better? And it's to go collect talented student athletes, and I think that's what I'm really excited to do.
It's a thrill to meet you. It's a fun program to follow. We're really glad to have you and wish you all the best. We'll follow you along the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much,
thank
Coach Simpson, the new men's and women's track and field coach here and overseeing some of the cross-country folks as well. Grateful for his time. And that means we have a chance to talk with Olivia Zawadzki. Olivia coming to Baldwin Wallace from Indiana Wesleyan University. Let's get you all set up here. Good. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Gosh, you guys are having a fun start to the season. Why don't we start on an individual level for you, though, and your journey to BW? It's a simple question up front, but why BW?
I think the main reason I transferred is because I wanted a place that, could prioritize my academics and my athletics. And, every part in between that, culture, social life, friendship. BW's volleyball program is the best culture I've been a part of in my life, honestly. I came in, first year transfer, I was treated like family from day one. And that goes with every other first year there. They really took us in. They said, here's what we're about, and it's not changing. We I don't know. We bond so well. We gel so well. It's honestly, it's unmatched, the culture they have set up.
I find that so refreshing to hear because you come in an opportunity for you to get in and play right away, but it's a program that has a lot of the same pieces from last year, and yet the program's in transition because of a coaching change. Mm-hmm. How chaotic, difficult, easy? You tell me, what was that like going through a process where you were trying to figure out where you were going to go to school, knowing that there's a coaching staff change and all the things that can sometimes come with that?
I think through my recruiting, I had already known a lot of the coaches that worked with Christina. And talking with them and talking with her, I just felt like I could really trust the program that I was going into. Christina's an amazing coach. She was an amazing player. And I had nothing but trust for her from day one. And, there's a lot of new girls on the team.
Sure.
Like, definitely, there's a lot of new ones of us and a new coach. And I think it just gave everyone a clean start. Everyone was ready to go from day one.
So is there something that as a team you guys have, tried to focus on, a mantra, some way to say, hey, look, new group of us, but this is how we're moving forward together?
Yeah, our main words we use this season is all in. We sat down together and we said, how are we going to build our program from the foundation with culture, with effort, with attitude, all the way from execution on the court. And then we topped all that off by saying, we're all in, every single one of us, no matter what part, what position, we're all in.
I like that. You brought up Coach Voltz, so let's talk about her for a moment. Give us a behind-the-curtain view at what it's like to play for Coach Voltz.
It's awesome. She's so smart. She's so intelligent, and she pushes us in a really healthy way. I think one of the things I really enjoy most about her is she, prioritizes us as a person before an athlete, always, and I value that so much.
I have to imagine that was part of your decision on coming to BW. You referenced the academic part of your life, the ability to take that as seriously. How have the first several weeks of your first semester gone?
It's been good. Definitely different. Really enjoying. I'm a psychology major, and
Cool.
I'm really enjoying, that psych department, everything, diving right into, classes. I'm kind of a nerd, so
That's okay.
I'm
good thing.
enjoying it. Like I'm starting different volunteer stuff like that, getting into the community, just everything I can.
What's the long-term goal? What do you want to do with it?
I want to get a license in mental health counseling and a license in
Lovely.
art therapy, and I really want to work.
Art therapy. I'm not familiar.
It is. I definitely want to work with kids, and it's a lot of time you take people in the therapeutic settings, and if they have trouble, communicating with trauma, different skill development, different developmental stages, art is a great way to help them.
No
so
kidding.
Pretty passionate about that as well.
I have never heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, how can I assume you've done your homework on this? How can BW help you accomplish that?
Well,
Or at least how do you hope it will?
yeah, I've sat down with my academic advisors. She's already helped talk to me about, different routes I'm going to go in. BW requires, a major and a minor. So, I get the best both worlds, studio arts and psychology. I get them both. And it's awesome to be passionate about both and be able to prioritize that as well as volleyball at the same time.
We'll definitely talk some volleyball, but I think we're on a good roll here academically. And, frankly, we talk with a lot of coaches on the show, but don't get a ton of opportunity with student athletes. You're in an increasingly more normal spot because a lot of kids are transferring if they don't find exactly what they're looking for. And maybe there used to be this stigma around, I have to pick where I'm going to college, and I can't change that. I'm locked in.
Yeah.
How did you fight that, if you had to deal with that? And what was your experience like as you brought BW sort of into the picture that it hopefully made you comfortable with the decision to come here?
Yeah, it was definitely a really big challenge. I know originally I felt like I was, letting down past teammates or giving up on something, and it was extremely difficult. And on my first visit here, meeting the girls and talking to the coach, and then getting to visit the school, I was like, I wasn't sure if I was ready to transfer, if I was ready to make that full decision, but I feel comfortable here, and I feel like I can be, a Yellow Jacket, part of this family.
How much did, the recent or long-term history and tradition of BW volleyball, how much did that factor into your decision?
Do you mean like their past few
Yeah,
seasons?
whether it's the past few seasons or looking long-term at how has the program been for 20 years, or how did Coach Anger or Coach Carter, handle the program? Did it matter to you what BW volleyball was versus what you're hoping it will be now?
The biggest thing that mattered to me was really the culture, not so much how successful or unsuccessful they were. I really, knowing of Coach Voltz before I came here, really, and knowing that she was taking over the program, put a lot of trust in me, and I really viewed it as making a decision that felt best for me at the time. And if I can come into a program and just try and help them out in any way, I was ready to go for that.
So for any other young men or young women that are watching tonight that are student athletes elsewhere that are trying to figure out how do I go about the process of transferring, you referenced the culture was an important piece. Can you share with us how you figured out, hey, I like this culture? Like, what were you able to do with these current players at BW that let you know, like, all right, this is a comfortable spot for me?
Yeah, it was definitely the one-on-one conversations. It was the reaching out, the how are you doing? This is totally difficult for you, I'm sure, and what can I do to help? They are so fast to help and support you. And, coming in and, having a beginning successful season, I've had nothing but support behind me. Like, I have nothing, there's just nothing but love and more encouragement. There's no jealousy on our team. There's no, I wish I had that. There's just constant support and cheering each other on. One of my favorite parts of practice is, we come in on Mondays after games and we do shout-outs. And unless Coach Voltz stops us, I swear we could keep going the whole practice. Well, she did great here. Well, she did great here. And it would just keep going. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So you're from Hilliard,
Yes.
Columbus area, an easy drive up I-71 to come up to Cleveland. And I would imagine cool for your family that, there's a couple of schools in the OAC and Outer Bina Capital that are easy drives for them.
Yeah.
How much did it matter to you to say, hey, look, if I'm going to make a decision and go to school elsewhere, that you want to be somewhere that your family and friends could come support you?
It definitely was a contributing factor. I definitely wasn't scared to be far from home, but man, my parents never miss a game. I mean, they don't. They never have. They're always there. We came into Case Western Wednesday. They were in the gym before we were for warm-ups.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
I love
amazing.
it. My grandparents come, my sisters come. I mean, I've got the best support system in the world I could ever ask for.
Tell us a bit about your family. It's clear that they're important to you.
Yeah, they are. I'm super close with my sisters. I really don't know where I would be without them. I'm the baby, so they helped me along the way, for sure. And then both my parents were athletes. My dad played basketball at Otterbein, so he was already familiar with the OAC. So I think it's kind of fun. I get to play in the same gyms that he has.
That is cool.
That's
awesome.
I think that's something special I get to share, and they're just, man, they love it. They really love watching me play.
That's really, really cool to hear. And the good news is I get that impression from a lot of student athletes, and I think it speaks to what we're building at BW, because there's a lot of people who feel like this is the kind of place that they want their family and friends to be a part of their story. As far as the team goes, you guys are writing a nice story at the beginning of the year. 8-4, you're playing well. You had a nice long win streak there for a couple of weeks. Your impressions on the beginning of the season so far?
Yeah, I feel like we're doing good. I definitely have one of those mindsets of like, we can be even better. I'm always ready to go to the next level, for sure. Yeah, we're just growing so much. I just think there's so much potential on our team, and I think, looking forward, we can have such a successful season, and I'm so excited for it.
So you've got a couple more opportunities here before you actually get into conference play. I realize you haven't played OAC volleyball yet, so it's hard for you to say, hey, this is what I expect the barometer to look like. But as a team, what kinds of conversations have you had around, hey, this is what we want to do leading up to conference play? We want to hit this goal, this threshold. We want to be able to do this well. What kinds of conversations have you had around that?
Yeah, we've been really in practice focusing a lot on executing in our offense. I think there can be a struggle when you get a bunch of new girls together, and definitely being a setter running the offense with a bunch of new hitters. I definitely think that's something that just you slowly got to work through. And I think, man, I just have awesome teammates, and all I can see and focus on is how good we can get, and I'm just so ready to get there.
You've got a road trip to North Park. That's in the Chicago area.
Correct.
How much have you enjoyed the travel component of this, to be able to have some bus trips and stay in hotels?
I'm never one to love bus trips.
Why is that?
I tend to get car sick.
Oh, jeez.
I never really love it, but, it's pretty fun when you have the girls. On our way back on Saturday, I mean, we put on Remember the Titans.
It's a great
And
movie.
all 19 of us are staring at the TV, totally in on it, cheering on, like, the football team. We're doing, like, the dances with them. We're clapping when they score touchdowns. I mean, I just have a blast with the girls.
Oh, that's good. I realize your time at BW has been brief, but you've accomplished quite a bit as a collegiate volleyball player, 2,000 career assists. I'm not sure where you were when you decided as a high school player to pursue playing volleyball in college. But to this point, how has it lived up to what you hoped it would?
I think all through middle school and high school, I had that goal that I was ready to go to college and play at the highest level I could. And I think that that's a good question. I'm having a blast. I think, especially as a freshman coming into college, I had a ton of pressure on myself. And then I started playing and I started getting in the groove of things, and I was like, this is insanely fun. Like, this really is like the peak of athletics for me. It is so much fun to compete with like best friends by your side and doing all, like, I could not ask for more. It's just like I love to compete.
So take me back then, even pre-college, pre-high school. Like, when did you fall in love with volleyball? When was it a part of your life that you knew, God, I have to pursue this. I have to have this a part of me?
In 5th grade, in 4th grade, I was in gym class. I sucked at volleyball, man. I was awful at it. Absolutely awful. And yet somehow I came home and I said, Mom, I'm going to play this sport. And in 5th grade, my dad started taking me to OSU women's volleyball games. And I'm sitting there, and I will never forget this. In 6th grade, I think it was 6th grade, maybe 5th. I'm watching OSU women's volleyball play, and they're playing a match. And they just lost, like, 2 sets. And this setter, Taylor Hughes, gets started. She's like a freshman. They pull their other setter out. They put her in and reverse sweep the team. And I'm sitting there going, this girl is so – I want to be her. Like, that is so cool. I said, that girl turned an entire team around, reverse sweeps this team, gets the win. Like, I was like, I think I fell in love right then and there. I started coming – I could not stop playing volleyball. I wanted to be in the gym 24/7.
So Olivia Zawadzki falls in love with volleyball in historic St. John Arena.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I will never forget that.
Have you been to the Cavelli Center down in Columbus?
Of course.
It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's definitely weird when you have that memory that's really in your head, and then you get to the age where, like, I'm friends with some of the girls on the OSU team now.
Sure.
And I'm, like, at that age now, and I'm like, this is, like, I've been dreaming about being here for a while, and it's surreal being here sometimes.
So I realize BW is a smaller stage, but it's just as impactful, right? Your passion isn't different if you were playing Division III versus NAIA versus Division I. Do you ever reflect on the responsibility that you have when you think about, as a little girl, watching Taylor Hughes at Ohio State, and now you're Taylor Hughes, and you have a chance for little girls to watch you and think, God, I want to be Olivia Zawadzki. Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, sometimes it's motivating. I've had little girls come up to me after games, ask for pictures. They want hugs. They want me to sign little papers. Like, it's one of those things where you think that you're not making a difference at all, and then you're watching all these girls come up to you and be like you're helping them in some way, and I just think it's so cool.
Is there a tie for you somehow between psychology and volleyball? Like, how does one help you be better at the other?
I think, especially since I got to college, I think I really started to develop in a pretty servant way. I really, really love serving other people, and I really, really just want to make an impact in others. So I think it's easy in practice when I'm tired and I don't want to be here because, man, if I'm not successful in my job, not one of my hitters can be successful. Like, they will not have a good day unless I have a good day. And especially, like, if I'm sitting in homework and I'm like, God, this sucks, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to have to know this someday, because someday there's going to be a client or a patient in front of me that's going to need my help and is relying on me. So it's motivating. It keeps me going some days.
You ever thought about coaching?
I love coaching.
Yeah?
I've been coaching for 6 years at the club I played with. And
Awesome.
I've debated it a lot that I think I might want to go into coaching, and it's still up in the air for me, but it's definitely on my radar.
You got your whole life ahead of you. You don't have to make
of
those
course.
decisions. You
Right.
can figure that out. This has been as enjoyable a conversation as we've had at any point during these shows. Your energy's infectious. It's obvious that your teammates love you. And
Thank you so
really,
much.
really cool to have you at BW. Wish you all the best and can't wait to follow your career here.
Thank you so much.
Great to meet you. Olivia
great to meet you.
Zawadzki of our women's volleyball team here at Baldwin Wallace. Jackets are 8-4. They're playing really good volleyball, and certainly hope that you'll come out and support them somewhere along the way